How often do you use your client's first name during your sales phone call? Is it at the beginning? Is it in the middle? Is it the end? We're going to listen to a phone call of mine where I use the person's first name. I use this client's first name. Now, me using this person's first name, it's not the beginning of the phone call. It's not the end of the phone call. This is right in the middle of the phone call. This is the presentation part. It's part of the presentation. So what I've done right now is this, is I've pulled 5 minutes of the presentation so that you can hear how many times I use this client's first name. And then you tell me, how important is it to use the client's first name during the phone call? We're also going to, as we're listening to this phone call, during my fact find, during my discovery process, I found out that this individual, Bob, the problem that they were facing was that they needed a plan. They needed some insurance that encompassed all 3 of his doctors. That was the most important thing to them. That was the problem. So you're going to see, as I'm presenting this, how I emphasize the fact that Medicare has no networks, that Bob can go ahead and go to literally any doctor because there are no networks. So that is solving the problem that was their biggest problem. Their biggest problem was making sure that the plan that they were on did not have a restriction as to where Bob can go to see his doctors. This is solving it, but I really emphasize it based on the fact of what I picked up during the fact find, during the discovery. So we're going to listen to 5 minutes right now. I want you to listen very closely to how many times I use the client's first name. A little bit of this is going to blow your mind. So what I want you to do is this: I want you to write a number 1 on your piece of paper. And besides that number 1, I want you to write down Medicare, M-E-D-I-C-A-R-E, Medicare. A as in apple, and B as in boy. Okay? So the reason that I had you write number 1 and I had you write Medicare A and B, that's the red, white, and blue card that Bob is supposed to have starting tomorrow, which is on its way. Okay? When Medicare is number 1, when they are the primary insurance, what that allows Bob to do is it gives him nationwide coverage. So when Medicare is his insurance, there's no networks with Medicare. So it's not like an HMO or a PPO that we're used to having and we've grown up with, is that once Medicare is number 1, once they're the primary insurance, it's nationwide coverage. So Bob can go anywhere he wants to in the United States. He can go anywhere in Texas. He can keep his own doctors. He can choose his own doctors. There's no referrals that Bob ever needs as well. So if Bob wants to go to the best specialist in Texas, or he wants to go to the best specialist in Nevada or California, he doesn't have to worry about, do they take my insurance, because Medicare is his insurance. Medicare was designed 50 years ago so that someone had the freedom and flexibility to literally walk into any doctor's office or specialist in the United States and just show them their red, white, and blue card. Okay? And this is where it might blow your mind, so hold your horses for a second, okay? Is that right now, even though you're 67 years old, Medicare is not your insurance right now as number 1. For you, literally, what you could do, for your situation, you could literally cross out Medicare A and B as number 1 on your paper and write down Humana, because Humana is your insurance. Humana actually took over. So whenever you replace Medicare with private insurance, what that does is it puts you into networks, it puts you into deductibles, it puts you into co-pays for doctors' offices. So you're familiar with that. Have you ever looked at your Humana plan as far as what the out-of-pocket expenses are under that plan? Have you ever looked at it before?
No, honey, I haven't.
You haven't? Okay. So I'll talk to you about that in a second, but let's just keep kind of going with what we're talking about right now, is that for Bob, starting tomorrow, he wants to keep Medicare as his primary insurance. He wants to use his Medicare card, because for you right now, even though you're Medicare eligible, basically, in a roundabout way, what you've done is you've deactivated your Medicare card and you've given that to Humana. So whenever you go anywhere, you can only go to places that Humana accepts that card, and you can. So we don't want that for Bob. We want Bob to be able to go anywhere he wants to without any networks, without any referrals. And the way to do that is you keep Medicare as the primary insurance. Okay.
But how much does that cost a month?
Yep. So we're going to go into that here in a second. So first thing I want you to realize is this: is that the Part A of Medicare is for the hospital. Okay, that deals with the four corner walls of the hospital. Okay, I could sit here and I could bore you to death with the deductibles and the daily charges of being in the hospital for Bob. I'm not going to do that because we're going to talk about a supplemental plan, a true supplemental plan that will go ahead and will pay for everything for Bob if he's in the hospital, whether he's in there overnight, he's in there for a day, a week, a month, or a year. Bob will never have a hospital bill ever again in his life. Okay? The Part B as in boy with Medicare deals with all the medical expenses. Okay? So Part B deals with what we use it mostly for, which is your doctors, specialists, outpatient surgeries like knee replacements, chemotherapy, x-rays, exams, and medical equipment. Everything that you can think of outside of the hospital is handled under the B as in boy. Okay? So what? Yep. So perfect. The biggest thing that obviously most people are concerned about with Medicare is Medicare only pays 80% of all medical expenses. So that leaves somebody open to the other 20%.
Yeah.
Okay? So what I always tell somebody is this, is because I'm a very visual person, is that when you've got Medicare as number one, just like you have on your piece of paper and I've written down on my piece of paper as well, is when Medicare is the primary insurance, is that it's wonderful because you can go anywhere you want to. There's no networks. There's no referrals that you ever need. But the problem is that if that's the only insurance that Bob had, it's nice that he can go anywhere he wants to in the country and not have to worry about anything. But if he walks in for, say, a $100,000 procedure and all he has to show them is his Medicare card, he's going to walk out owing somebody at least $20,000 because Medicare is only going to pay 80% of that. Okay? So we've got to fill that gap. So what I want you to do is I want you to write it.
So there we go. How many times did I use Bob's name? How important is it to use your client's first name? You can see I used Bob's first name 11 times. It's that important. Each time I said Bob's name, it was creating a friendship. It was creating a warmth. Now I was not viewed as just a salesperson. I was viewed as a trusted advisor. Here was the very first time that they ever talked to me. But it felt like they already knew me. I always say that it can be a one-time transaction, but it must feel like to the other person like it's a lifetime relationship. Here's the secret. In order to make it a lifetime relationship, you have to use your client's first name throughout the entire sales phone call. That was just the first part of the presentation. There was 3 parts to it. That was just the first part, 5 minutes of it. I used Bob's name 11 times. That's how important it is to ensure that the other person views you as not just a transaction, but as a relationship. You also listened to during that phone call as well. His wife, Joanne, tried stopping me and asking me how much did it cost. Now, what if I had given her the price right then? Would it have blown up the deal? I don't know. But you know what? I had not provided enough value yet in order to give them the price. She didn't know exactly what she had. See, this is a big problem in Medicare sales, is that most people don't know what they have for their insurance. Here is key, is that Joanne didn't even know what her out-of-pocket spending limit was. She didn't really know how her insurance worked. So now, if Bob had the same insurance she had, he might have some very high out-of-pocket expenses. He might have a network where his doctors don't accept it. We don't know that. But we know right now what the right thing for Bob was. And so by using the first name, I create a friendship. By creating value, I went ahead and explained exactly how Medicare worked and what the best option for Bob would be. And both individuals walked away with not just the best situation for their problem, they also walked away with the solution, which was me. So on every single phone call, sell the problem, not the solution. And at the end of the day, make sure that they're buying you. They weren't buying a product, they weren't buying a service on this phone call, they were buying me. If you sell you, that will ensure that you are an absolute sales rock star on every single phone call. Listen to this phone call again. Make sure that during your phone call presentations and throughout your phone call, you're using your client's first name, not just once, not just twice, several times during your presentation. You listen to 5 minutes in the middle of the phone call, 11 times. That should tell you right there how many times you should use somebody's first name during the presentation. Now go out there and be a sales rock star to someone. Make sure that they're in the right situation for their problem, and not only will you see your sales increase, but you'll see your pay increase, and you'll also at the end of the day do the right thing for another person. Good luck and be a sales rock star.